What's up, guys? John Wilkes here from Kingdom of Us, and you're checking out Interview Under Fire.
All right, everyone, welcome back to a brand new edition of Interview Under Fire. This is once again your host, Sunny, joined by another awesome co-host of mine, and Julie LaCrue. Julie, how are you?
I'm good. A little warm here in New York. How about you?
Same here in Texas. Me and John are both here in Texas. It's been a while. Glad to have you back here. Obviously, we're here with musician and activist and John Wilkes. Man, it's an honor. Thank you so much for joining our IUF series today, John. Now, this has been an exciting time of the year for you and Kingdom of Us with the release of your latest single, Tranquility, which features your collaboration with the Sass Brothers. Yep. And first things first, I just want to commend you on all the well-deserved recognition it's been getting so far, which includes you partnering up with One Tree Planted. For listeners who don't know, that's a nonprofit organization focused on global reforestation. Plenty of amazing things to unravel about your work with KOU. But before we get to all that and beyond, we talked about it before the interview started. How are you, man? I know we're technically neighbors here. You're in Houston, I'm in Dallas. How's life out there right now? How have you been keeping out since this entire year? And I know you're prepping up for technically I don't know if it is your first show this weekend with Corey Taylor.
Yeah, it's one of the first shows back. We've had a couple during this time, and like last fall we did like Diplo and some other shows here and there. Wow. But shows are definitely coming back. I mean, there's announcements every day now, which is very exciting.
Yeah, and for listeners who also don't know, because I do want to wind the clock back, John, for over a decade back to 2009, maybe even before that. Let's go back when you're sitting in your tour bus, because we are all familiar with your amazing work with Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. I remember renting Madden 06, and your song "In Fate's Hands" was on that. So the fact that you're even on my show, it's cool to see like how the circle kind of just reforms itself. If you could just briefly just shed more light about that moment in your life that led to the forming of KOU and to what it is today, because you have that strong involvement in activism for changing the world for the better. I mean, does it feel like everything also went by in a blink at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I sang backup in Red Jumpsuit here and there. I would sing some of the higher parts just to help out, because it wasn't, it was just Ronnie for the most part and Elias. And Elias did a lot of the mid-range stuff. So there was some counter melodies that would happen that was more in Ronnie's range, and I could sing those parts. So they were like, hey, we need you to do it from the kit. So that sounds good to me. And it just kind of developed around 2009. That's when I started writing my own songs. And some of these songs that I've been working on that are about to come out are from back then in 2009. And I wrote them in the back of the bus with, I want to say like Fruity Loops or something, like just playing an acoustic guitar into a laptop type thing. And that's how it started, but I come from a musical family. My father was a vocalist. My mom sang alto in church. So It was one of those things where it was just a natural progression. I never thought I would step out and actually be a singer, but that day came very recently. So here I am.
Yeah. How are you keeping up your vocals these days, John? Like has this time off, I mean, really the pandemic within this whole last year, I mean, has that affected your musicianship? Like, is there a routine that's changed for you, or have you kept something that's been kind of just constant without this last year?
I would say this past year, with everything that's happened, it's motivated me to work out more than ever. And I joke around, but I kind of do like what Miley Cyrus does, where I sing while I'm doing cardio. True story.
That works. Yeah. That works.
Julie, it's like doing vocal exercises with your mouth closed and doing like the hum technique while working out is a game changer for any vocalist that's listening to this.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Now I know. Something to keep in mind as I'm doing my next workout. Julie, if you want to go and take it from here, because I know the next couple of questions deal with you.
Sure. So has your time and work as a drummer in groups like Red Jumpsuit, Apparatus, and Monster Jam influenced your current band?
Yeah, absolutely. Because this is an opportunity. Kingdom of Us is an opportunity to showcase some of my drumming friends that maybe aren't playing anymore. So the whole idea, like when I teamed up with the Sass Brothers, I had Chandler, who is one of the Sass brothers. He actually played the drums on Tranquility. So I'm taking a step back. And when I did the single Burn last year in May, we did that Drummers United, and we got 17. Well, it was more than 17. It was 17 different countries, but we got like, I want to say 20 or 30 drummers all doing drum covers of the single. And we released it at the same time as the single itself.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna ask about that because that was something that's never been done before. Called I thought it was actually 17 drummers, but now that you brought up those numbers, that even makes it makes it even more impactful. I mean, there's such a historic thing for something like this for the drumming community.
it was cool because it was 17 different countries. It was really hard. I mean,
Wow.
I did it all myself, so I had to use Google Translate because a lot of them did not speak English, but they loved the music.
So with those drummers that you connected, was it drummers you already knew? Was it just, did they reach out to you?
No, I went after them.
Wow.
I went and found YouTube drummers. I went and found drummers that were on Instagram that I thought were awesome. And I handpicked, like, I want to say 50 drummers, and out of the 50, 30 said yes.
That's pretty amazing. I'm kind of speechless hearing that.
because what I wanted to do is I wanted to give these guys an opportunity to team up with, I don't know, maybe they grew up loving Red Jumpsuit, and I just never knew. I never met them. I never got to meet them because they were from Malaysia or something. So I was like, you know what? No one takes the time, at this level to go reach out to a young musician and say, hey, you want to do something with me? Yeah. It's always the opposite. It's always the young musician trying to get the attention of the guy that they look up to. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm always trying to get the attention of my friends. Like, hey, let's do this. Let's collab. Let's do this. And I was like, but no one goes and helps out the younger guys. And that's why I was like, I need to do something different. So that was the whole premise of that. I was like, let's help out the younger generation coming up, because they're the ones that are going to be rocking it in 5 years.
Yeah, and then in 5 years, I can say, hey, you guys were on that Drummers United video. So now that's something to look into going forward. Julie, I think you had one more question to ask after that.
Yeah. So what is it like transitioning from, I guess, being in the back of a band to being at the forefront vocally? I mean, it's like Dave Grohl and Nirvana moved from the drums up to the forefront of Foo Fighters. Like, what is that like?
It is so tough. I mean, my first couple of shows, I didn't open my eyes the entire time. So I was just like singing with my eyes closed. It's a tough transition because I was so used to, like, being that John Bonham type, smashing the crap out of the drums in the back guy for my whole life. Yeah. So to step out front and to, like, interact with the crowd, and especially to present brand new music that they've never heard before, is super tough. So for all of the bands out there grinding, man, I've got mad respect for everybody. I mean, we all started somewhere, and I remember doing shows when I was like 13 years old in front of no one. And I just love it so much. I have a whole new, like, love for music now, being a frontman more than ever.
Let's talk about something that you did also love, because you kind of briefly touched on about the touring life, because you talked about performing in front of a lot of the fans. I mean, you've been at this for a long time, John. I do wonder, how was the live music experience for you personally? Because you've done some extensive touring with Red Jumpsuit, and now we've all been kind of just forced to take this whole unexpected step back. And has this time lately made you develop a growing appreciation of that touring life? Like, we could talk about food, culture, and fans all we want. There's so many things to pick apart about what makes touring life amazing. What was your biggest personal takeaway, if you have one?
I mean, the biggest thing for me nowadays in my 30s is just the fans. Like, the fans really dictate who is going to be popular and who's not going to be popular. Mm-hmm. And when you inspire someone musically, and then they tell all their friends about it, and then they all show up to your show, that is still, to this day, that is probably the most magical moment that any of us can have, is the people that love music and people that create music. And nowadays the line is being blurred between creators and music fans, and the fans are becoming creators and the creators are becoming fans of the new generation. And it's a very exciting time for music, because nowadays, with the way the platforms are, anyone can rise overnight.
Very
there
true.
there is no, oh, you have to, you know, run into the right A&R at the right time to be able to get noticed. I mean, you literally can put the work in and make it happen overnight if you really want it.
And this kind of transitions into the next question because you set it up for me perfectly. And you've seen this for the last year as live streaming. A lot of the bands and, a lot of the fans have been doing live streaming with the whole shutdowns and the pandemic and everything else in between. A lot of the bands, what they're doing on stage, they're taking it onto the screen like we're doing right now. Obviously, these interviews would be in person if we had the chance. But, we've had bands on here like, August Burns Red, Lamb of God, and August Burns Red, they're doing one this weekend actually.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask with that, they talked about how they sold like virtual tickets to their fans, they would stream a show, but there's no wrong answer to what I'm about to ask here for you, John, because I wanted to get your take. Like, do you think that the rise of the quarantine induced live streaming we're seeing from all these bands right now, even today, is that going to affect the touring musician business going forward through your perspective? Like, has it already been affected? And do you still see bands doing something like this even after all this is over? Like, we're talking festivals coming up later on this year. Like, how do you think that's going to play out as far as live streaming? I'm sure pick up where it left off.
Well, I mean, I think live streaming is the future in a way because you can never get away from the energy of a live show. But for someone that lives in Alaska that wants to see, that wants to feel the experience of like going to Travis Scott's festival or something, he can through the internet and through live streaming. So, we're starting to see just on the production side of things, because that's what I do, as well, is we're starting to see that venues are integrating live streaming almost not like every show, but eventually we could see it go into live streaming being at every single show. So imagine the idea of like, that's $25 to go to the show. But if you don't live in Chicago and you want to see whoever that's playing in Chicago, you can pay that $5 or $10 online and see the live stream of the show.
Another thing before I relay this off to Julie, because I've also had friends who talked about live streaming, and I think this is very underrated as far as mental health, because I've had friends who don't go to shows purposely because there's the anxiety of being in a large crowd and just, there's that convenience on watching someone like you and KOU on the screen as opposed to just dealing with the whole madness of being in a mosh pit, just for example. I think that's another thing to point out too. Live streaming is also beneficial to people who deal with mental health, and I can definitely see people tuning into like the festivals that you're going to be a part of later on this year, something like that. It like I said, there's no wrong answer to what you just said, because there's that liberty to mosh in my own room, right? There's always that, but there's also that creative barrier. Like, okay, we did the live streaming, how much more creative can we get? Because there's always that. But anyway, we could go on forever about that. And if you want to add anything else, Julie, if you want to take on the next question, because that's also transcends into the next one that we have to ask.
Yeah, I actually want to backpedal for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned that right now, nowadays, band artist popularity is dictated a lot by the fans. Coming up in it now, do you see social media, like the role of social media, is that an annoyance to you? Is it something that you're learning how to grapple with? Like, what is that like as an up and coming band dealing with the huge swell of social media?
Yeah. I mean, to be overly honest, and I'm just going to have to be honest about it, I see a lot of young artists and new artists coming out that their Instagram numbers say 100,000, but they've got 17 comments on their post. So I see a lot of fabrication that's happening through social media, which is fine, because it makes it accessible to do that. But it hurts the younger artists, in my opinion, and even the older artists that are reinventing themselves like me, So it's a situation where they think that that's the goal, is like, okay, I have to get 100,000 followers on Instagram. But what they don't realize is that if they have 100 people that are in love with their music and they are talking to all 100 of those people, they will be able to still make a living doing what they love with just those 100 fans. And that's more important than anything else right now, is connectivity between your music and the people that are listening to it. And it doesn't matter how many people are or are not listening to it, but it's a matter of what they feel. If it makes them feel something in their heart, that's more important than anything.
Than the 10K followers they have. Perfect.
Julie, did you have the next one or was it me?
I think it's me.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess kind of going off of that whole, connecting to an artist, especially now with, the world being upside down for a year. Has the pandemic affected your work as an artist? And people tend to gravitate towards the negatives, but were there any positives that came out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, during last year alone, I had, to be honest, like 100 streams on Spotify, like 100. That was it. Last year alone, I did some collaborations with some amazing artists. I teamed up with Welcome Records, which is Kaiser's record label.
Yep.
And I just kind of got out there and I was like, guys, I'm singing now. Let's do some songs. Let's just make some music. And we went in 1 year, we went from 100 plays to we just broke 200,000 streams on my song called Riot with Sin, who's on Welcome Records.
Wow.
So, and it's an interesting time because, you can do numbers like that. And then you do a song like Tranquility, and Tranquility is not going to do numbers like that because it's not, that's a different market. Does that make sense? So so that's another thing that artists need to remember nowadays, especially in 2021, is that it's all about think about what market you're in, thinking about who you're selling to. Even though you're making music and you're passionate about it, you have to have something substantial that you're putting into the market. Everybody has like a certain thing that they're like. For me, like, I'm trying to push positivity. It's kingdom of us, not kingdom of me.
Right.
You see what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to put out there into the world, because no matter what, it's a business. And so people have to remember that as well.
Yeah.
True. It would seem, based on everything I've heard, your songs, you're really passionate about environmental issues. The Burn song, you're taking on hot button topics that are highly, critical by a lot of people. And so, knowing your market is one thing, but how did you decide to let those kind of hot button issues infiltrate your music? How did you decide that was the right move for you?
Honestly, it all started back in Red Jumpsuit with Face Down, because we teamed up with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and we helped thousands upon thousands of battered women that would come to our shows and say, I heard the song on the radio and I left my husband the second I heard the song. Left him, like, done. Relationship's over. And they would be like, you saved my life. I thought for sure he might have killed me. And I've heard hundreds of those stories back in the day when we were on tour. So that really stuck with me. And it showed me that music is more than just a mosh pit and more than just having a good time, Right. So when it comes to what I'm doing now, the whole idea is to get these messages out that are important. Like, no artist was just straight up saying, hey, we're killing our planet, let's do something about it. Nobody was like, the next single that we're working on right now, it's called Obituary, and it's about dealing with death and how to find positivity in losing someone that you absolutely love, like a family member or that kind of thing. So that's the next single. And I was lucky enough to team up with the Sass Brothers again. Those are some of the most talented kids that no one's ever heard of. They played the NAMM show when they were like 15 and 16 years old, and all the rock stars would come to watch them shred at the guitar booth. And they never got a chance to, like, they've been in a couple bands, but they've never got national recognition. So for me, I was like, this is a win-win. Like, let's do this. Let's make sure that it's a complete collaboration. So you guys get your own Spotify page, you get your own Instagram page, and you guys can go out there and work with other artists, because that's what this is all about. So.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what your thought process is like when you're creating, I guess, a piece in general or Tranquility? Do you sit down and the lyrics come to you first, or does the music come and then the lyrics? How does your whole thought process, writing process work?
I mean, most of these songs, believe it or not, like Tranquility was written in like 10 minutes. So it's one of those things where I'll be thinking about what's going on in the world, because I'm always thinking about, okay, what needs to be said that nobody else is saying. So when Tranquility happened, the chorus came in musically, and I just heard "Sound the alarm, our way of life is on fire."
Yeah.
And I went, oh, okay. So obviously I'm talking about what's going on with the environmental stuff. So then from there I was able to build it, but it all started with just that chorus and realizing, okay, so I'm on to something. Like I'm on to no one has had the balls to say something like that, to just straight up say, like, we need to find tranquility again, meaning like we've killed the peace that we have with our planet. And that's the whole premise of the song, is that like we are not in sync with what our planet is happening physically with our planet.
Yeah.
And with all of the pollution and everything that we've been doing for decades now, since before any of us were born, we've been destroying our planet. And that's the craziest part about this whole thing, is that to write a song about that, it's kind of doom and gloom, but the people to find a positive way to say that, it was the hardest part. And that really comes out at the end of the song, when I go, I plead with you to save Earth. I plead with you, meaning if you took the time to listen to this whole song, this is for you. This is for me. This is for all of us. Like when I'm not speaking directly to you, I'm speaking to all of us, because we are all screwing up.
Yeah, I'm gonna use that as a bit. I don't know. You summed it up perfectly. Did you want to add anything else to that? I think you're about to.
No, I mean, basically, Tranquility in particular, to me, it's not about the song. It's not about the music. It's about rethinking about the message of what we're doing to our planet. Like, thank God for, activists like Greta Thunberg and all this stuff that happened in like 2019, where, with the climate change, where the kids were going and being activists at their schools, and they were like doing protests and all that amazing stuff. And that is awesome. But I felt like it needed to be brought into the music community more than it has. Like, because some of think about what Rage Against the Machine did back in the day. And people aren't doing that enough. Like nowadays, music is all self-absorption. It's, I'm in love with this girl, she doesn't want to be in love with me. Or, I'm losing my mind, or it's all me, 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 me. And it's all, vanity. There's just, everyone's pushing vanity. And I'm not trying to call my friends out in other bands. I'm just trying to say, like, let's think more globally. Let's think more about each other. Let's look out for each other.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I think of a band like Gojira, because they are doing that, like they have a song called Amazonia, talks about the rainforest and how it's on fire. Like the lyrics are in there. And there's a song like the Chant, and that talks about the life in Tibet. They touch on so many different things globally. But I wanted to piggyback off of that, so that kind of just goes in relation. Hopefully you can actually play together, you guys. That'd be like a really good, like a global metal show. If I were to, we could talk about that forever all we want, but it's nice to see the bands like you and Gojira, like just to name a couple off the bat. I can't think of anything else, but doing something like that actually goes outside of the reason why we're in metal is because this makes us feel terrible, so let's sing about it. But everything you touched on about what we're doing to this earth, especially we're in a freaking pandemic, for crying out loud. Do I need to exemplify any more than that? So I think that's amazing what you're doing. I love that you're doing this. I love the way that you're delivering your message. And not only that, something that I want to talk about is the production within your songs, because I'm kind of an audiophile these days. I'm switching gears here, but it sounded so clean. It sounded so polished, which made the song that much more powerful. By the way, I heard everything on these songs, Tranquilities specifically. As far as like the production and mixing and mastering, who did you go to for that, John? Was that something you did yourself? Did you?
So
yeah, go ahead.
This is another exciting moment. So the guy that produced this song with us is a very young musician. His name is Andre, and he is incredible. It's the Sass brothers introduced me to him, and they were like, "We're gonna record the song with this dude. and this is who we're going to do it with. I'm like, all right, cool. I had never heard of the guy. He is fantastic. And he actually got us connected with Chris, who does like Dance Gavin Dance. And
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So Chris Crummett, who does Dance Gavin Dance, and I think he did
That name rings a bell. I remember talking about him with one of the
he's
bands
a producer.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He ended up mastering Tranquility because of Andre, which was amazing. Man, I can't sing that kid's praises enough. Like, he blew my mind. The way like he made everything sound, because the way that we did it, you know, I recorded in Houston, they recorded in Chicago. So they did all the music. They sent me the music, and then I tracked the vocals here in town and sent it back to them. And then it was mixed there, and then they sent it off to Chris, who I think is in Portland.
Okay.
And then Chris mastered it. So it's
a lot of moving around, but hey, man, you got the job done. That's pretty amazing to hear the way it was executed. I'm sure there was that sense of comfortability for you in the studio, John, knowing that you had someone like Andre and a handful of other people to actually make this song come to life. It's one thing to write the lyrics, but it's another thing when you can actually deliver it the way it's meant to be projected. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's another thing too, sometimes it's not good to be a perfectionist. Sometimes you just have to do your part and then let everybody else do their part. And that's really what made that song magical. Was, you know, Burn was a great song, but it was just me and my buddy Joseph, who's another amazing producer who's now doing a lot of like metal stuff in Los Angeles. And he's growing up big as like a metal producer right now. But it was just him and I in like a little tiny rehearsal space doing Burn. And then this time around, you know, we're doing everything remotely. So I'm writing these vocals, like sitting in my car outside of a grocery store, like grandma's walking by, seeing me like singing and screaming into my phone. Do you ever
do the thing where you like record it on your phone and then you come back to it like a week or two later, like, why did I even sing that? Like, you know, do you ever do that? I'm sure you do.
Oh, for sure. We always do like a full rough demo, and I'm literally just singing into my phone. It's the funniest thing ever. Like,
we're talking about how social media has changed, like the way the technology is, you know, speaking of something that's like, we're changing, and of course the world is changing with it. And, you know, being an activist in addition to being a musician, I wonder if, does it feel like this sort of outlet, John, allows you to tap into a whole different dimension of yourself that you may not have been able to tap into before?
Absolutely. Like, yeah, without a doubt. You know, this right now, as an artist, as an unsigned artist, because there's more unsigned artists than there are signed artists nowadays.
Oh yeah.
The creative freedom to be able to say whatever you feel like you need to say is the most beautiful thing ever, you know, for all of us. You know, it's really awesome to see like how I feel like other artists are starting to wake up and they're starting to write about things that matter more and more. So to me, that's really exciting to see that happen. Because it happened in me. You know, I never thought in a million years I would be a singer. Like, that was not part of the plan. You know, I was like, oh well.
And here you are talking about that. You know, that's a whole different thing.
I mean, I woke up one day and these songs just poured out of me. And at first, like with Time Is the Enemy, the first single I ever did, that was just an EDM collaboration that I was just like, yeah, I'll give it a try, see if something can happen or whatever.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, it works.
And then it turned into that song, and apparently that song did really well in Europe, and I had no idea about it. Like, it broke some chart, some UK chart, I don't know. And that's another thing about, you know, music in 2021. Like, when you don't have a manager, you don't have a record label, you don't have anything, it's just you and the people that you're collaborating with, you have no idea how many people you're reaching. And
I know we pause there because you're talking about the different people you're reaching. Before I hand the next question off to Julie, because for that nonprofit organization I want to talk about, One Tree Planted, there was who was the person that you connected with to make that collaboration? I forgot her name.
Oh,
I can't think of her name because I wanted to mention her name because you partnered up with that and you're doing amazing things with that organization.
So, and I have to say this just because I feel like there's a young musician that's probably listening to this that needs to hear this. So all of these things that happened with this song and every other song, I did myself. I went and I found an email address for One Tree Planted. I went and I found a list of emails and I said, okay, I'm going to reach out to these people. And I sent them the demo of the song. And I said, this is what I'm doing. I would love to have you guys involved somehow. And it led all the way to me having a Skype call with the board of One Tree Planted. And in that conversation, they told me, A, we love the song. B, we would love to have you be a partner. And C, we want you to know that like this type of stuff is really important to us. They also teamed up in the same time. They teamed up with Coldplay at the same time they teamed up with me. So if that gives you an idea of where they're at, because I'm here and Coldplay is above the screen.
Move that bottom, move it up a little bit. All right. You're getting there, man. I just want to, how long ago was that call? Now that you mention it.
That was in January. So
Bro,
we actually, yeah.
That makes me proud just to hear something like that. Anyway, go ahead.
So it was such a cool situation because we recorded the song in like November, December, and they wanted to try to release the song before the end of the year, all the guys on my team. And I said, no, we're going to do it on Earth Day next year. And they're like, but that's almost a year away. I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's the time to do it. We got to let the election, all that stuff happen and clear out. And the cool part, so people understand with One Tree Planted, you donate $1, they plant a tree, a whole tree with that $1. So that alone is amazing because who can't find $1 in change?
Donate right now. I already donated actually, but I'm going to donate again. I already donated.
Another cool thing that blew my mind, and I really want to get this out there because people don't know this. In 2020, during the pandemic, when all of this was happening, One Tree Planted still was able to plant 20 million trees in 2020. And they are on path right now to do 1 billion trees. 1 billion trees. And the coolest part about this is every tree that's planted that helps our planet, that helps us, that gives us more oxygen, that gives us more life. Like imagine if they keep this momentum going, where we're going to be in 10 years. If we get rid of gasoline, not to get like political, but if we get rid of all of that, we go to electric cars, we continue on this path with One Tree Planted and all these foundations, planting trees, replacing the trees that we took from our planet over the last, 100, 300 years, since we've been industrializing, if that makes sense.
Man, no, go ahead and finish that. Yeah, go ahead and finish that.
Imagine where we'll be in just 5 years if we keep on this path. So I think it's so important for artists now more than ever to write songs about this to help keep it in the forefront of our minds. Yeah, and that's the whole point of Tranquility.
With all this negativity that we've been seeing this last year, you mentioned the election. I'm not going to get political, obviously, but the election, the vaccines, left, right, whatever it is. This is the stuff. This is why I do what I do. It's the stuff that you're doing, mentioning about what this amazing organization like One Tree Planted is doing. How old is this organization, by the way? Do you know off the bat?
How old is it?
Yeah.
It's not very old. I want to say
not that old, I would think.
2014.
Okay, yeah, not that old, but
yeah,
that's definitely something we want to plug in here because everyone who's listening, donate $1. Like, I mean, you want your own tree, right? That's an amazing thing to think about. And again, like with all the negativity, it's nice to see something positive growing from this entire craziness and all of it. But I want to say one more thing, but Julie, I'm going to hand this next question off to you. I know you're dying to ask this next one. She has a really good question for you, John. So I'll go ahead and hand the baton over to her.
In between writing, structuring songs, and production, like we've been talking about, do you see these collections, especially since you said that you've really been working on a lot of these songs since 2009? Do you see these songs with KOU as snapshots looking back at certain times in your life now?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's some of these songs are even like more of like it's kind of funny to describe, but do you remember the movie Walk Hard? Did you guys ever see that movie?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, when the whole time he's trying to write a song that sums up his whole life. And at the
I
end of the
do.
movie, he writes the song that sums up his whole life.
Yep.
I try to approach every song that way. Like, I think it's because I'm getting older. I'm 35. I'll be 36 this year. And I'm like, if I'm gonna step out there and be a vocalist, let it count for something. Let it be for a reason, not just, you know, I don't want to go out there just screaming about nothing and singing about nothing. So, and I just want to, if I can just inspire people to look into themselves, if I can inspire people to look into helping us collectively, then I've done my job.
You're doing it so far. I mean, Kingdom of Us, I think it's in the name. You know, from the different experiences and perspectives in your timeline that you have taken in, which we have discussed about so far, you know, playing for as long as you have and the people you have met and work with doing these compilations, including the multiple touring cycles with Red Jumpsuit, your involvement in activism. And it sounds like, you know, you still have much left to put out there with KOU's artistic vision and yours. You know, this is definitely something you have a passion for. And the truth is from what I'm seeing, you know, you've experienced plenty already in your career, John. You know, have your aspirations as an individual or even a musician, have they changed or evolved since when you first started playing music in the industry? Like, do you see things differently today?
I mean, the main thing that I see differently is I'm an adult and I have to support myself, you know.
Yeah.
So when you're first coming up, you don't worry about that. You're like, we're gonna go on tour. I got my mom's minivan. It's been parked for the last 3 years. So we're just going to flush it real quick and just take it on the road, see what happens. And that was amazing. And all of us have done it. And there's guys that are doing it for the first time, literally right now, that are probably 17, 18. Mom said, okay. And they got a chance. You know, I know Red Jumpsuit's having a lot of like new young bands opening for them right now, which is awesome. And a lot of bands are doing that now. They're getting these young guys that have never toured and giving them a chance, even if it's just regional. Like, hey, come to Dallas, come to Houston, come to Austin, and just giving that to them. And we need to continue doing that. So for me, yes, everything is different because I don't look at it, even though I said you have to look at it like a business. Right now, for me, I'm just releasing music because I can,
Do you
not
ever stop?
because I need. Go ahead.
No, I wonder because as you're mentioning all these things that you've been through, do you ever stop to just exhale and just take a look back at how far you've come?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do that all the time. Like because on the other side of things, a lot of people don't know this, but like I've been able to start a whole career as a production guy. You know, I'm a stage manager. Like that's what I'm doing for Corey Taylor on Saturday. So I kind of have this like teeter-totter effect because I'm still releasing music, but I have a whole nother career as a production guy, which is, to me, that's awesome. Like that was always part of the plan. Like my plan was, okay, I'm going to tour in my 20s and then I'm going to be a production guy. You know, that was always in my mind.
And
so the fact that I was able to pull that off. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. You're gonna finish. I keep wanting to. I get so excited as you talk about it. I want to jump to the next one right now. Go ahead.
I just want to inspire people yet again. Like, if you don't like your job, quit your job. Like, do what you love because we're only here for a limited amount of time, and do exactly what you love. And there is a way that you can do it where you can support yourself enough to live and to be happy. And I've learned that tenfold. You know, I was able to tour, and the touring kind of a little bit, at least for Red Jumpsuit, like back in 2011. So I stepped down and I explored other options. And it led me to this point to where now I can have this conversation with you guys so that I can share this message with someone that's listening right now that follow their heart. They need to follow their dream, whatever it is. Even if it's, let's say it's to play tennis or let's say it's to teach sign language, like whatever your passion is, follow it because you only live once. And nowadays more than ever, entrepreneurship is king. And we have seen time and time again where people had stepped out and did their own thing and became more successful than the person that sat back and worked their normal job. So if I can say anything right now to someone that's listening, follow your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you no, and keep pushing forward. That is the only thing that we are supposed to do for ourselves and for the planet. And if we do it all together, it will be amazing.
And yeah, man, you could have said that any better. And that kind of brings us, because we got a couple of bonus questions that Julie drew up that you kind of vaguely touched on these questions already. But Julie, if you want to go and ask John these bonus questions before we finish things off here, I think these are some pretty fun ones we got for you.
Okay, so totally random questions. If you could uninvent one thing, what would it be and why?
Uninvent one thing. Honestly, cell phones. Because I mean, I love that we have activity, but I also hate it because, you know, all of us spend at least 40% of our time on our phones, if not more. Mm-hmm. And I'm guilty of it every day. So cell phones.
Same here.
Good one.
Julie, do you want to ask the next one too?
Sure. If you weren't a musician, what would you be doing right now?
Right now, my family's always said that I'd be a good salesman, so I'd probably be like selling something like cars or homes or.
You know why we asked that? Because you talked about how you could just. I'm not discouraging that at all. If anyone's out there doing sales, please do it. You know, because you talked about something that you're passionate for. You know, it's because before I was doing this, I was a salesman, so that's kind of goes hand in hand. It's so crazy that you said that, and that's what I was doing before I decided. You know what? My life is in music. You know, I want to be able to get artists like yourself, the talented people like yourself, to find a way to channel your energy and your message out there into the world. And that kind of goes hand in hand. But John, this has been such an honor, man. I hope we get to meet in person. You're in Houston, man. So hopefully, you can come back up to Dallas sometime. Obviously, I'll go down to Houston. But if you ever do a show here, a production, you know, just let's stay in touch. Obviously, I know cell phones isn't the main thing we love, but let's stay in touch on social media, on Instagram, obviously. Do you have any, last words, just any shout outs, anything you'd like to plug in or mention as far as KOU before we finish things off here? I know maybe a new music video coming out soon. I don't know what you can and cannot say.
So the plan is we're going to continue to release singles every 6 to 8 weeks. So everyone that's into KOU, be ready for that. It's going to happen. I'm going to make sure of it. If you've never heard the stuff, check it out on all streaming platforms, Spotify, it's Kingdom of Us or just KOU. And then if you go to the website, which is kourevolution.com/save-her, we have a limited edition merch drop with One Tree Planted, where we're donating straight to One Tree Planted. And this shirt is very limited. So we're only doing it limited time, and it's directly for One Tree Planted. And there's also a portal on the website where you can go and donate as well. So it's kourevolution.com/save-her.
And you have heard it here first. And is the latest single Tranquility that just released, is that the latest one that came out? Is that the newest one?
I'm sorry, say that again.
As far as the latest single, is Tranquility the latest single?
Yeah.
Okay. And everyone who's listening, check out that new song. Go to that website that John just talked about, and please get your own tree planted. I mean, that's such a simple request, but it does so much. John, this has been such an honor. Julie, thank you again so much for joining me today. Hope to have you back here again. John, you be safe out there in Houston. I mean, we're only 5 hours away. Be safe in Dallas too. But I hope you have a great show this weekend. Stay in touch, and everyone who's listening, this podcast will be heard on every major podcast stream out there. Check us out on interviewunderfire.com. I know, John, you talked about getting your message out there. I don't think you have to worry about that, as we'll be on every platform. I'll keep you posted on when this interview goes live. That way you can post it, share it with all the fans. I mean, it's nothing but, the sky's the limit for you, man. I can't wait to see all the exciting things that you're going to accomplish here in the next year. Looking forward to the day to see Kingdom Ups on stage. And we can talk about how we spoke during the pandemic. That's the time that I look forward to. But anyway, John, you stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you next time, buddy.
Thank you so much, guys.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Interview Under Fire podcast. If you guys liked what you heard, please subscribe and share our channel. And please leave a 5-star review, as that helps us tremendously. If you'd like to check out more, visit www.interviewunderfire.com or our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And finally, we want to thank you all for the support you've been giving us. Keep it burning.